I was going into Taghaza. I had to stop by at the last police post. And it was a young man. It was the DPO that told me, come on, go. And that's because I was scared. I and my team were scared, and we were like, how could we go? Now, this is one road you don't want to travel alone without security. There are some persons who attempted it, and then they almost went there with a garrison.
Wow.
But then we wanted to go on that road. It was the DPO who told us, from what they've heard, in the last couple of days that these strikes took place, this place has been clear. And that's because these people have already reported that they saw these terrorists running away. And trust me, not just ourselves, on the road also, we were driving by, the driver was asking, and then there seemed to be this excitement
in the community,
this safety of these people are no longer here. This place is now safe.
Well, we have in the studio Ferdinand Duroha, Arise chief correspondent, who just returned from Sokoto state, covering the aftermath of the Christmas Day U.S. strike there. Ferdinand Duroha, good to have you back.
Thank you so much.
In one piece.
Yeah, one piece.
Yes. We are grateful because really, I mean, when you consider the backstory, it's not as easy as it seems. You didn't get a flight coming back from Sokoto. You had to.
It's not easy, and that's because, well, everything.
Yeah.
It's the season, the Christmas season. President Trump decided to give a Christmas gift.
True.
And there were lots of talks if the Christmas gifts did get to those whom we were supposed to who should be getting the gifts, and those were the backstories. But at the end of it, well, I just think that it's very necessary for us to take a look at the scenarios, and then if there are lessons to be learned, definitely, I do think there's a whole lot of lessons for us.
We will definitely come to that. Nigerians have been asking one question, one very fundamental question, as to whether this strike really succeeded. Did it achieve the objective? Because on the one hand, people are saying, where are the bodies? The bodies of the terrorists who were taken out. And on the other hand, some are saying, look, it's not necessary to show you, any
well, permit me to say that,
How do you gauge or weigh the success or otherwise of this strike?
Well, I've been embedded in military operations for the last 8 years, and I must say that such coverages, well, it's not new to hear people come out with some of these questions, and that's because you take a look at the state in which we are right now. Well, there are a whole lot of doubts, there are a whole lot of confusion, and so people just want to be psychologically safe.
Right.
And that's exactly the reason. Yes, that's exactly the reason why you begin to hear some of these questions. And then also, permit me to say this, well, because of the way we've actually carried branded figures, sometimes you hear 1,000 people killed, 50 people killed, 600 people killed, and yet we still see these terrorists carry out these activities,
and
looking stronger. That's exactly the reason why people are asking these questions. So I don't blame them, but then also, well, perhaps I'm going to say that later on. Well, let's start first of all by asking, did this actually achieve its objective?
Yes.
Well, for me, I will say, yes, it did. However, there's something that we must all learn. We must all learn that, well, when you talk about warfare, you can't separate propaganda from it.
Absolutely.
And so when you take a look at some of the, words that have been, take, for example, President Donald Trump used, we're talking about words like powerful, words like deadly or, obliterating. Well, perhaps if you use those words to indeed weigh whatever you are taking a look at that happened in Taghaza or whatever, well, definitely, you wouldn't really find that. And so to a large extent, I will say, yes, terrorists were killed because I spoke with people who saw bodies.
Right.
I spoke with a couple of them,
members of the community.
Okay. One of the traditional leaders. Well, after that, well, some security operatives went down, and then with them were some civilians, and I spoke to them.
Right.
And for some of them, first of all, when you go into that community, it's not a place where people are quick to talk. That's why when you take a look at the report, we had to blur some of these faces. And that's because, to a large extent, they will tell you that a whole lot of them living in the community have been in bed with the bandits for different reasons. For some of them out of fear, for some of them out of sympathy. Now, don't forget the story, talking about Lakurawa. At a point in time in 2018, the people of Sokoto invited Lakurawa to come in and help.
Protect them.
Help as vigilantes.
Right.
Help discipline their children. And so, along the line, rather than disciplining, these guys, you know, they went on with whatever beliefs that they had, tried to instill those beliefs, which was not really concurrent with didn't align with some of the things that we know. Right. And from there, they got powers, and from there, they went on and on and on, and then the people became like slaves, and it got so bad, you know, it got so bad that, you know, you have a chicken in your house, they come in, they pick up the chicken. I spent over 3.5 hours there, and I can tell you that I didn't see livestock. That community is not a community where you want to rear livestock, and that's because...
Why is that?
They come in and then they take it. Now that's the situation.
These Lakurawas.
That's exactly what it is.
So what the people in those communities have on their hands, some kind of Frankenstein.
There's so much to it. You cultivate, they come in, you pay taxes, they come in, they take your crop, or they come in, they abduct persons, you go and sell the crop, the produce, and then you do it. They went in, carved out a cave for themselves, the cow, the kakuri, Kauga, and then Malgam in those places, and then that's exactly how they've been doing it. So it's not also very easy for these persons to come in freely.
So these Lakurawas, if I'm getting you correctly, have become some kind of government.
That's exactly what they are right now. They've become a government. Those ungoverned spaces that we all talk about, that's exactly what they've done. They go into those places and then somehow dominate. And then going back to some of the lessons that we've learned, at least we didn't see obliteration, we didn't see those deadly missiles, but there were casualties. And I think we must learn from that. And for the United States, well, they have said they are not backing down. And then somehow, I just think we have to improve on this. When I talk about improve on this, yes, in terms of synergy. But permit me to also say this, still talking about that. Now, I think there should also be a clarity in terms of the mission. And that's because when you put this side by side with the objectives of President Donald Trump, you really want to ask questions. However, terrorists are terrorists, and any terrorist taken out anywhere, anytime, any day is a positive one for Nigeria as it stands at this point.
So what are the lessons we need to take away from here? Because when you hear, for example, that tomahawks were used in these strikes, and you wonder if these are the right equipment to use in carrying out these operations.
If we can't associate, what
are the risks involved here?
If we can't associate deadly and powerful with this, then obviously I think we also have to question the use of precision. And so maybe it's a lack of understanding. I know the military would always look at this, classify it, and then say, well, although we are in a war, but this is an asymmetrical warfare. It's not a place where you can just go in and then cap a bomb. And so I think perhaps, they also have to look at it in terms of the weapons. If your target is Taghaza, and then you have weapons dropping in Kwara, or perhaps even if it's not weapons, warheads dropping in Kwara, whatever they did call it, well, debris dropping in Kwara, debris dropping in Jabo, then you really must question the missiles that you've used. So I think perhaps that's also a lesson for them. How precise
are these?
They definitely have got to take a look at it. How precise, are the strikes? And then when you come back home, I was expecting, or perhaps I should say this now, give it up for our military, like what we've seen today, what we've heard today with what the efforts, what they've done. However, I didn't see that eagerness to continue, for a follow-up on the part of our military. They were not so excited. Now, no disrespect, and I must clearly say this. Now, it's not because they don't like what has happened, but then also, you also want to look at some of the backstories and then some of the reactions. And it was like, as if, you know, we didn't really appreciate what they were doing. Now we have, now we have our boys everywhere, scattered across the country, driving from Sokoto down to this place. You know, they are scattered across the road, and so they are doing a whole lot from sunset until sundown, and so it's good to appreciate them. And so perhaps I saw perhaps a military that really didn't feel appreciated, and with Nigerians coming in to celebrate this, I felt, well, we have to be very careful so that we do not demoralize them. You know, they are doing a whole lot as well. However, in terms of the clearance operations, I didn't see so much zeal to go in there. Now, for me, it's not about if the weapons did destroy anywhere or if terrorists were killed, but I'll tell you a small story. I was going into Taghaza. I had to stop by at the last police post, and it was a young man. It was the DPO that told me, "Come on, go." And that's because I was scared. I and my team were scared, and we were like, how could we go? Now this is, you know, this is one road you don't want to travel alone without security. There are some persons who attempted it, and then they almost went there with a garrison. Wow. But then we wanted to go on that road. It was the DPO who told us, from what they've heard, in the last couple of days that these strikes took place, this place has been clear. And that's because these people have already reported that they saw these terrorists running away. And trust me, not just ourselves, on the road also, the driver we were driving by, the driver was asking, and then there seemed to be this optimism. There seemed to be this excitement
in the community,
this safety of these people are no longer here. This place is now safe.
But unfortunately,
I think we need to
cash in on that.
I think we need to cash in on it.
But then again, we heard barely 24 hours after this strike happened. You know, there were reports from Benue, traditional, you know, leaders in Benue State, saying they've noticed some, you know, unusual movements of strange,
it's possible.
People. Of course, there was a strike in Kebbi State where
it's possible. It's possible. It's possible.
Yeah.
From what we were told, Taghaza was used for assembling and, of course, staging, and it was everything. It was everything, and so yes, it was everything, and so that place needed to be attacked. It needed to be hit. Now that hit happened. We are very sure there are casualties. Perhaps they all weren't obliterated, like what some persons are saying, and then the communities did say that they did see a whole lot of them running away on their bikes the same way they attacked 3-4 of them.
You know, there are calls now that this strike should be expanded to the north central, to the northeast.
Yeah.
As a reporter on ground, is that something that we should be buying into? Very quickly, are there risks involved?
I think,
what are the implications?
I think we don't need the Americans to do that. And the Air Force didn't need the Americans to do that before they did it today. We must continue. We must indeed use intelligence, critical intelligence, to take a look at places like Taghaza, places where these persons, you know, have cells, places where they've come. There are places where they've come together, and then where people know that, yes, these are terrorist enclaves. We should attack those places. And then also, we should try very, very hard to ensure that when we attack, the attack is precise. And then also, morale is also needed.
It has to be high enough to encourage soldiers on the front line. Ferdinand Droha, you've also been on the front line. Thank you very much for what you do, and thank you for coming back safe and sound to us. Ferdinand Droha, Rice Chief of Correspondence, just back from Sokoto State.